say Shabbat Shalom. And when we finally make Shabbat, I could get up here and say, Good Yontif. But it wouldn't be Good Yontif. That's getting ready for Yom Kippur in just a couple days. So lucky we have co-cantors tonight. Cantor Frank and Ken Coffin are taking the night off, well-deserved rest. And we have Adrian Crandall and Linda Bergman that are going to co-lead. By the end of the service, if you can think of an idea of what co-cantors, if there's a name for it, I was thinking a cacophony of cantors. But we're going to begin. It'll be a nice, quiet service tonight, which is great. On page 128 in our Mishkan Tefillah, our regular Friday night books. And I think you're going to need a microphone, though. Yep. Just because they can't hear online. And we welcome everyone who's joining us on the stream as well. 128, Hine Ma Tovu Manayim.
Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, 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 shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, hine ma tov. La 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 la. Hine ma tov, hine ma tov. La 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 la. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
I want you to take a moment just to think about this past week. I know a lot's happened in our religious community. We had Rosh Hashanah, for example, and take account of it. Think about one thing that's unique about the week, and I want you to turn to your neighbor and just share one moment of joy from this past week.
Well, I had Sarah and Zach over for Rosh Hashanah dinner.
That's
and
right.
That was really nice. And she made cheesecake for dessert.
That sounds really good. Delicious.
I said, you didn't make ice cream? She says, no, I make ice cream all day. I made you cheesecake.
That's right. She's the ice cream lady.
And if you want to share your moment, just raise your hand, and we'd love to hear the different moments from the past week. Yes, Walter.
I was in D.C. yesterday, and I had a 5:45 flight back out of Baltimore, and I thought there was no way I was going to make it. I was going to get home at midnight, if not the next day. And there was an Amtrak train that I didn't know about that got me from Union Station to BWI in time, and I made my flight. And I really was thrilled.
So Walter thought there was no way he could make his flight from D.C. home, and suddenly Amtrak opened up, and he was able to get there. Any other moments that were special or unique or joyous in this past week? I think listening to Stephen Glickman blow that shofar 100 times. I don't know if he'll ask me to do that next year or not. We'll see. All right, let's take all those moments in. We'll take a nice deep breath of 5, 7, 8, 3, the first Shabbat air from this year. And I'd like to invite up Bruce Chorus to offer our welcome.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
Shalom.
Notice I didn't say Lashana Tova. I did pretty good. on Rosh Hashanah, knock on wood, mensa. Anyway, it's nice to see everyone. The Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and New Year is usually called Shabbat, the clergy gets a night off. But this year, Rabbi Alex is with us, which is a treat. Cantor's resting up. She's been very, very busy, and we appreciate everything that she's been doing. So we appreciate Adrian and Linda stepping in. The golden Anyway, it's nice to see everyone here, and of course, we'll see all of you, I'm sure, and many more come Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. Rabbi mentioned it's the first Shabbat of the new year, which is really special. It's nice to have everyone here celebrating it with us. I'll be back a little bit later with the first announcement. Well, they're not the first announcements of the new year, technically, because I had them Monday morning, but it's the first Shabbat announcements of the new year. So aren't you glad you're here?
So we've had someone that's arrived back in our community after some time, and we've missed her. So actually, why don't we have Chris and Julia and Naomi come up here? And Naomi, before I invite Chris and Julia over to light our candles on page 120, could you come up and open our ark? She was already heading over there. Look at that. If you don't know, in our communal history, Naomi is our ultimate ark opener. Let's see it. We have not seen it in quite some time, before the pandemic, of course. Yeah, just open the sides. And we don't need to open the curtains. Perfect. Okay, so why don't you go down? We're going to light our candles on page 120.
I think Joanne put matches on top.
Oh, I think it's in that little container. Oh, yeah, those ones are easier. Those ones are better, I think. Oh, you just got a bad match. Luckily, she found a very good match with Chris.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat v'yom tov.
May the candles light our way into the new year. And why don't you lift up our Kiddush cup there? Naomi, do you want to do that? And we turn to our Kiddush on page 123.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho, b'ahava uvratzon, hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom tehila lemikra'e kodesh, zetzek etziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, v'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai,
Chris and Julia, watching you out there, I had this image of the beginning of the pandemic when we had a practice of Zooming our candle lighting because we couldn't gather together. And Chris and Julia, along with many of you, were always on it. It was a really special, unique moment. And so you kind of brought that a little bit back to here. Thank you. Yeah, it feels like a long time ago, right? It's amazing. Speaking of which, let's turn to page 125. And we can substitute out, instead of week, where has this year vanished? Where has this year vanished together? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished. Will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom? On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat abide. Help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time, contain the retreat of the hours and days from the grasp of a frantic life. Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world this day. On this day, Shabbat abide. Amen. And hopefully a really joyous year that we want to hold on to. That I like the sentiment of the prayer, but it's a little depressing to me. I wish it was a little more optimistic. I always feel happy coming into Shabbat. You know, life is very ephemeral, but we hold on to our moments as best we can. Page 123. We already did that. Page 138, sorry. We're ready for L'chad Odi, to welcome in Shabbat. We're going to sing the first verse and the last verse. On the last verse, we rise. We face the doorway over there. We bow to the Shabbat Queen as she enters, and then we welcome each other by our handshake. Not ready to, Steve, not quite yet. So on the ninth verse, we'll rise. Again, page 138.
Dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 penei Shabbat nekabela likrat dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 penei Shabbat nekabela Shamor v'zakor b'dibor Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet ve'letihila. Come, likad dodi, likrak kala, yadadai, 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 penei Shabbat, nekabela. Likad dodi, likrak kala, yadadai, 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 penei Shabbat, nekabela. Boi b'shalom, ateret b'hala, gam b'simcha, u'tzocho hala, tov emunei am segula, boi chala, boi chala.
We turn to one another.
Likad dodi, likrat kala, yadadai, 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 penei Shabbat, nekabela. Likad dodi, likrat kala, yadadai, 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 penei Shabbat, nekabela.
Yadai, Yai dai da da dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai. On the bottom of 145. Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time. even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence of God. Page 146, our call of community.
Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
We think of the transition to nighttime, and this is about the time of year where it actually works perfectly for our Shabbat. Page 149, let's read together at the top of the page in English. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and seasons glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you have set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Aravim. Page 150, Ahavat Olam.
Yep.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha aveta Torah u'mitzvot Hukim u'mishpatim Otanu lemadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shakvenu Uvkumenu nahasiach bechukecha V'nizman b'divrei Toratecha Uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu Ve'orek yameinu Uv'hem nege yomam v'layla Yomam v'layla V'yakavatcha al tasir Mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael.
On page 152, the Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
You may be seated. And actually, I'd like to invite Linda over here. there's something she always does with the littler kids, but it's appropriate for all ages. And I think it's about moving. You know, we pray in so many different ways. I like to shuckle. And do you want to teach us the moving Shaman? Anyone who wants to do it.
Moving Shema is, and I learned this from Cantor Susan Whaley. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And it shows people who struggled. God is in our hearts. God is all around, everywhere. All over.
Well, let's see. Come on, we have some brave people. Come on, let's try.
Should we try it?
Makes you limber. So.
Shema
Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Thank you.
That was easy.
It's a lot harder for adults than for kids. Page 154, the Via Hafta.
Go ahead. Okay. You lead this.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ותיבם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשתם לאות על ידיך וכיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי וכולכם קדושים לעולכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
On page 155, let's read together in English. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the front of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai your God. And we continue with the Mi Chamocha on page 158.
מי כמוך בלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוספלה. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקח ים לפני משה, ואמרו, ומרים. זה לי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, כי פדת יעקב, גואלו מזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
So what you hear there is the melody of the High Holidays. Bruce mentioned something else, but this is not just the Shabbat that rabbis and cantors get off. This is the Shabbat Shuba, actually, one of the more important Shabbats. With that in mind, on page 164, I invite you to rise. We're going to do the silent Amida, but you'll notice there are prayers that are included within the Amida that are only for this Shabbat. So when it says Shabbat Shuva, like in the middle of 168, those are the special prayers. And we'll proceed on until page 178, and whenever you're ready, you may be seated.
Shalom Rahav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atachum melech hadon lechol hashalom. Ki atachum melech hadon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rahav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov benecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'kol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rahav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
This is very special for me tonight. Back when I was at Temple Sinai, before we got started here at Shir Shalom, we didn't have a full-time cantor. We only had cantors for High Holy Days. And so members would step in. If not, then I'd have to lead the service by myself, and they didn't want that. So Adrian was the president of at the time when I first came to Buffalo in 2008, and she also was a wonderful service leader. And I think this is the first time we've led together since Shir Shalom. Is that pretty much? I think.
I think there was one other time.
Yeah, it's been a while, and also because Linda and Adrian will be leading the healing service during the High Holidays, and this is something together, there's been a couple different iterations, but that they've done for maybe 5 years at least. Yeah. So that's a really wonderful and important service. We are going to be turning to our healing prayers. This is one of our important rituals that we do as a community, I think when we come together, it feels right that we pray for one another. We have so many people in our orbits that really need that extra attention, whether we say their names or not. The prayer itself can be found on page 370. And I'm going to read our list. And if you have names you'd like to offer, just raise your hand or just say the name silently to yourself. We are thinking about Rachel Anderson. Wait, I didn't know that. Mark Clay, Gary Bernstein, Stephen Bernstein, Joseph Dash, Drew Dembowitz, Gary Filipponi, Sue Frank, Antonio Franzen, Lester Frank, Leslie Garfinkel, Marlene Glickman, Sharon Gray, Irene Green, Dennis Halpin, Paula Jones, Bharat Kelly, Mark Nightinger, Joe Malucci, Jill Shire Monahan, Ann Oppenheim, Shel Rossi, Brandon Ryan, Joyce Seitz, Carol Silverman, William Scretany, Nicholas Warren Tepper, Adam Tinlin, Kristen Walker, Anita Wiesel, Mike Wheeler, Christine Zalowiski, Aviva Bat Shoshana, and Chana Ezra Ben Shuel. So if you have other names, just raise your hand.
Roy Post.
And I'm going to put my mom on the list. She broke her foot yesterday, so she has a walking cast, but we'll put her on there. We bring all those names together as we sing the Misha Berach.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mechor Chabraha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe Berach Imotenu Mekor Chabraha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
A complete healing of body and soul. May all of our prayers go out to where they're directed to. Okay, so how many of you, I'm curious, know more than one language? How many of you know more than one language? How many of you know more than two languages? I've never asked this question before. How many of you know more than 3 languages? 4 languages. Okay, we got a little like this. That's pretty impressive. I know my grandfather, he spoke 5 languages. It's quite amazing to hear that in America, where we're really only speaking one language. I mean, there's Spanish and French and other languages that are spoken here. In Buffalo, in my kids' school down in Amherst, I think there's 40 languages that are spoken because we have so many immigrants from all over the world. It's quite incredible. But one of the things we often miss out in as Americans, because our country is just so big, and because we have a sense of unified language, is that gift of knowing multiple languages. If you live in Montreal, for example, guaranteed, or you should at least know English and French. If you live in Miami, you probably know multiple languages too. If you go through Europe, it would be hard for a European not to know multiple languages just because you need it in your everyday life. You're going into and between, and you're probably working with people, living with people that speak different languages. There is something about that skill. I can say I've learned Spanish in my life. I got through a few levels of it in high school, and I've learned quite a bit of Hebrew, but I wouldn't consider myself fluent. So there is that sense in another language. It's scary, right? When you learn another language, it's especially for adults when they're learning. It's, I think, for kids as well, but there's a real discomfort because you're starting at a much lower level of language than you are in your native tongue. And maybe, like if I converse with a 5th grader in Israel, I probably would do pretty well. But if I converse with a college student, I'd probably have trouble. There's something about that willingness to go into that area of discomfort and learn something. But there's also a beauty to it. And some of us are more skilled at it than others. I remember I dated someone years ago who said, I'm really good at languages. And they went to Israel, and they realized they're not good at languages, they were good at accents, which is also important. So it was a good observation on their part. But when you go into another language, you're entering into another world of how we can describe and think about life. Every language has its own sense of grammar, its own priorities, its own way of looking at this world. So when you're able to go into that other language, it's almost like you're in this another environment. And for kids or adults that grow up in places where they speak multiple languages, they often will switch between them based on the occasion, based on who's, of course, present in the room. But there's also some languages are better at some things than others. And I know just from my experience in Hebrew is a beautifully concise language. The way its grammar is set up is, it fits the grammar because it was sort of a book language for so long. The grammar actually isn't so far off from actually how it's spoken. And so there's definitive rules. Whereas in English, the words kind of are borrowed from so many different languages. So there's that sense of simplicity that you get. There's a lot more rhyming words in Hebrew as well. So as a poet or a songwriter, I love to think in the Hebrew because you could rhyme everything. They didn't use rhyming at all, of course, in our biblical canon. They used things that were parallelism. That was their way of doing things. But I thought for this week, as we go towards the end of the Torah portion, I spoke in my Torah thoughts about this was the Torah portion that was all about this Arabic word, yalla. Yalla is this beautiful word that if you go to Israel or probably anywhere throughout the Middle East, you'll hear it all the time. It'll be used in multiple settings. It's untranslatable. It technically means Yah, oh God, basically, Yah Allah. But it's used in so many different contexts, it's impossible to actually say it means this. You have to kind of approximate the meaning. And, believe me, it's fun. It's like saying in the South, y'all, if you've ever moved down south or lived down south. After a little while, you start saying y'all. So I decided in honor of our the third to last Torah portion of the year that I would take you on a journey of different words from around the world that help open up worlds for us. So if you look, there's a sheet like this. I don't know if you've received it. Okay. And this is taken from a website. There's actually 10 other words. So I'll credit the person who created the website if you want to look further. But I thought the person did a wonderful job. So first we'll start off with Waldensamkeit. Now, anyone speak German? I'm probably mispronouncing that terribly. Or Yiddish. Yiddish and German are very similar. So in German, the words go together. And so you can really put them together in the same way that it works in Hebrew as well. Wald means forest. Eisamkeit means loneliness or solitude. It is the feeling of being alone in the woods and a peaceful oneness with nature. How wonderful that they have a word to describe if you've been on a nature walk and you find yourself alone with your thoughts. There is a feeling you get, and we have no English equivalent. So when you're there, you can go to the German, Waldensamkeit. The next one, let's see if other people could practice. You're going to raise your hand if you want to read this for us, nice and loud. Yeah, go for it, Bruce. Iktropak, that was pretty good. Inuit. It describes the feeling of anticipation when you're expecting someone. That wonderful feeling when your friend or your relative is coming. It refers to the impatient excitement. You're excited. It's sort of how we get before Shabbat, actually. When you constantly check to see if you're coming, if you look out the window for them. It's that feeling that makes you look out the window countless times hoping your guest will arrive. Anyone feel that feeling before? All right, who wants to try the Japanese? They actually had this listed of Japanese. Come on. Any takers? Yes, Noah, go for it. Okay, so it sounds like a rabbi there almost. Komorebi. It refers to the sunlight that filters through the leaves of the forest. This is so beautiful, when that sun comes in, especially here in Western New York, we have such glorious trees, just to see nature's beauty. And there's something about it in the trees where it really sparkles in a particular way. Okay, next, Spanish. I know we must have some Spanish speakers here. Yes, Sheila. Okay, say that nice and loud again, because that you sound like you. Sobre mesa. Do you speak Spanish? Okay, see. And do you know this word? Oh, okay. So this is a word. Do you want to tell us about the word based on what you know about it? How would you use it? All right, I got the whole thing. Okay. It's kibitzing. That's what Jill said. So after they eat, they like to kibitz. They like to talk, and this is wonderful, especially on Shabbat. We have that wonderful time, but there's that luxury of just sitting, and they have a name for it. We actually, in Hebrew, afikomen. That was the time where you would discuss and eat your dessert. I know in Germany they used to have this wonderful practice, Kuchen cake. It was you'd eat your coffee and cake and kibitz like that. Kuchen cake and kibitz. Okay, next we have Urdu, Goya. I'll try that one. That's a wonderful one for someone who grew up in a family that loved science fiction and fantasy. This is the moment when fantasy is so realistic it becomes reality. Anyone ever felt that before? I think when you go to the movies sometimes, right? Yeah, Noah, you've experienced that? Or maybe playing games too. You can really immerse yourself in the experience. Okay, a few more to go. We got Swedish. It's too bad Gunilla is not here. Mangata, the beautiful word that describes the reflection of the moon on water. You can even hear it there, Mangata. Sounds like a game, right? Portuguese, that's sort of a little Spanish-like, right? Saudade. It refers to the feeling of longing for something or someone you love, which is gone. So it's sort of the opposite of ixarupuk, right? So one is you're waiting for the person to come. This is that feeling when they leave, right? There's that feeling after they've gone that you have a certain sadness with it. Okay, just a few more. We have killik from Tagalong. It's the feeling of butterflies you get when something romantic happens. It's kind of undescribable, especially in a new love, right? This is a Welsh word, hireth, homesickness mixed with sadness for the lost or departed. It implies a longing for the homeland or the romanticized past. I think we feel that on high holidays, right? There's that sense of, especially coming back here, I felt it this year, we always are going back. We remember those holidays when we were growing up. We remember what it was like. And nostalgia, we'd say, which is a wonderful word in its own. Okay, and we are going to end with a Hebrew word that I never heard before, firgun. Firgun. It's an informal term. It refers to the feeling of joy that something good has happened or might happen to someone else. It's a little like nachas, doesn't it sound? It sounds like nachas. It describes genuine, unselfish delight or pride in someone else's accomplishment. What a beautiful world. So as you think about these words and we think about the year, let's be brave. Let's look into other languages. Let's be willing to open up. I always say, sometimes we think of technology as only being phones or televisions or computers. Oh, yeah. Okay, well let's try it. Anyone want to try? We have a dare. Yes, go for it. That's so wonderful. You remember that. That's great. It's a wonderful thing. In the if you go to Tel Aviv, you can see that. But as we think about these words, language itself is a technology. When new words are invented, and they're invented all the time, it opens up our world. The Torah, as I've spoken about here before, is a new invention in a way, a new way of telling stories, a new way of writing stories, a new way of communicating. So think about the words we use. Think about how maybe it releases us, opens us up, allows us to be more present, more thoughtful, and more together. May we continue as human beings to continue to make and build language in a way that can heal and provide hope in this world. Okay, so the signal was made. Adrian and Linda have been wonderful. You knew exactly we're ready for our Aleinu. So let's rise together, all of us, for Aleinu 586. And Naomi, you want to come up and open our ark? I really missed her doing this.
Yeah.
Well, no one brings as much enthusiasm, Naomi.
Yeah.
No, we're not closing. We're actually going to open. You can actually open. And then you can stay up and close. Whoa. See what I mean? It's wonderful. 586. Page 591. Nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. And now if you want to close. Tonight we're going to turn to our Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Before we get there, Sheila Bernard Tucker has provided a poem in honor of her son. Blessed be his memory. The cooler August nights tiptoed through the beds of flowers, a chill in the air, the rainy hours. It all reminds me of pumpkins and you. The days of love and loss, it was always just us two. Time does not just pass by for me. The hands of your clock tick louder, now you see. As they approach the hour, they cleverly quiet down. Like your memory, my son, a peaceful tapping always around. How many children have you, people say? I always answer 3 in a hesitant way. 2 here with me, 1 who has traveled far. How do I explain? I don't know where you are. You deserve more than just my telling the story. You deserve recognition. You deserve bravery's glory. You deserve to be wrapped in eternal sunshine and love. You deserve people to know who you are, your laughter, your love. 2009 took me down. October 4th, I hit the ground. Your memory, my blessing, fuels my fire, feeds my soul. Until we are holding hands once more, I can never be whole. Someday this last piece of the puzzle will click. The array of colors and shapes will finally fit. For now, soar high and live the life of your dreams. You are my guiding lighthouse of love, illumining my heart with your beams. Rest in peace, Brian David, my son. You're blessed. You blessed me eternally. You are now God's son. Thank you, Sheila. And I hope it's a comfort to say the prayers tonight. We are in mourning right now for Ruth Hellman, Nancy Schiller, Helen Weiser, and Tricia Woodson. On our yard site list, and we have a number of important yard sites as well as Brian's, we are remembering Robert Algase, David Arbitman, Betty Arwitz, Albert Ashkin, Esther Arbach, Brian Bernard, Dora Brody, Irving Bunis, Charles Colbert, David Citron, Sidney Friedman, Edward Froelich, Nathan Gordon, Joseph Hirsch, Julia Kaufman Sugarman, Esther Kirschner, Faye Lattis, Saul Levinson, Max Lieberman, Jean Lyons, William Mahaney, Dr. Alex Morrison, Elliot Morrison, Hannah Morrison, Megan Morrison Nozick, Adele Mueller, Leo Mueller, Harold J. Mullman, Sarah Nissenum, Belle Nosenchuk, Bernard Pollock, Morris J. Posner, Morris Reeder, Larry Schwartz, Susie Revo Solander, Louis Russlander, Marjorie Slisserman, Edward Shunk, Louis Shapiro, Abe Sitkoff, Arthur Sitkoff, Max Slonim, Lawrence Sladsky, Marshall Strauss, Ruth Taxon, Leonard Teplitsky, Mindy Weinman, Sylvia Weinstein, Irving Wexler, Yankel Winiger. And it said, those of us that we read at this time, which will also be read on Yom Kippur, they go straight to heaven. So this is the ultimate week between the holidays on Shabbat Shuvah. So those of you, if you have other names you'd like to offer. And we're honored to have Mindy's family with us on her first anniversary, her first yard site. We invite those of you whose custom it is to rise on page 598. There's one additional word, le'ela, le'ela, for Shabbat Shuvah. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlik malchutei, v'chayechon v'yamachon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'agalav v'zman kariv yimru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemeda kudasha b'rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata damiran b'alma v'yimru amen. Yehi Shlam Rabba Min Shemaya. V'chaim Alina V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Ramav. Hu Yaseh Shalom. Alina V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. May the one who creates harmony and high bring peace to us, to all Israel, to all the world. And we say, Amen. You may be seated. Zikronam livracha. May their memories be for a blessing. I'd like to invite up Bruce Chorus again to offer our announcements.
Shabbat Shalom again, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Some nights we come to services because we need comfort. And when we do, I think it's comforting to know that our temple family is there with us and always will be. And I think about this. There are names on our Yortzeit list every week of people who don't have anyone to say Kaddish for them anymore. And we do. That's one of the things that we do as a temple is we say Yortzeit for people who don't have anyone to say it for them anymore. And it just keeps their memories alive, and it keeps our family together. And I think that's a very important thing that we do, especially as we are in the middle of the high holidays, which is, of course, the most serious time of the year for us. Not that I'm not going to tell a joke or two tonight. Shabbat Shalom. We would like to thank our tag team Shabbat greeters tonight. First we had Mark and Sue, then we had Sheila and Rich. It took 4 people to greet all of you tonight, so you should be honored. Special thank you to Rabbi Alex, Adrian Crandall, and Linda Bergman for a wonderful service tonight. Nice job, ladies. Very nice. I called you the Golden Girls earlier. That was wrong.
The young Golden.
You're the Weather Girls.
You know, the Golden
It's raining Shabbat.
The Golden Girls, the actual ones, were in their 50s.
I know. I know. Just think the Golden Girls were younger than me. That's scary. Okay. Tomorrow morning, no Torah study. We will have Shabbat morning service at Canterbury Woods, which will be in person. So there is no virtual offering tomorrow morning. Sunday, Rabbi Alex will be over at Whitechapel for Kever Avot. That is the traditional service at the cemetery in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It is also the time of kickoff of the Bills game. So, can we adjust the time?
Yeah, I realized this because I've been thinking about it all week. Why
do we do it at 1
we
o'clock
always
during
do it at 1:30? And I realized the Bills have been so bad for
bad
so
for so
long,
long.
so it hasn't really mattered that much. Because I'm like, why is it that we always scheduled it in the middle of a normal football game?
Yeah.
None of the
Who
other
thinks of
synagogues
these
do that.
things?
Why did we come up with that time? Do you know, Joanne?
Tradition. Anyway, 1 o'clock, if you're not watching the kickoff of the Bills game, Rabbi Alex will be at Whitechapel. I'll talk about this tonight because I can't say anything about it during Yom Kippur because everyone is fasting, but we're going to have a Shavuos a week from Tuesday. Walter, don't forget. We're in the once a month stage now for Shavuos. So our October 1 is Tuesday, October 11th from 4 o'clock till sold out. We want to thank everyone that volunteers for Shavuos and supports it. It is really, really very important to the temple. Frank is ready to turn on the French fry fryer. He's just chomping at the bit there. He misses it. So our high holiday services will continue, of course, with Yom Kippur. They're all listed, the times and everything in the Chai notes. There are extra copies outside the temple office if you need one. One special note, Reflections this year is kind of neat. It is called You Don't Have to Be Jewish to Be a Member of the Shir Shalom Family. Our own Nancy McGorry and Liz Staley will be talking, and I think it's going to be very interesting. If you need anything, please feel free to reach out to Joanne, Todd, Rabbi Cantor, or myself. I think I mentioned this last week. Unless it's an absolute emergency, try to do so during regular business hours. The old farts among us tend to go to bed early. So if you need us at any time, we're here for you. But if it can wait till morning, please call then. Shabbat Shalom. Lashana Tova. I can say that, even though technically it's not a high holiday service. And then come Tuesday night, I'll probably screw it up again and say Shabbat Shalom instead of Lashana Tova. But Lashana Tova, Shabbat Shalom. Please help yourself to an onig and stick around and schmooze a little bit. We're back to doing that, and it's kind of nice. Thank you again, as always, for being part of our really wonderful Shir Shalom family. And there are times that really means more, I think, than other times. And it just is a good feeling to have our temple family together. Shabbat Shalom.
We're going to go to our closing song on page 625, Adon Olam.
Okay, we're going to do the call and response Adon Olam, so you repeat after us, okay? Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem Kol,
B'terem Kol,
Yetzin Ivra, Le'et Nasa,
Yet Nasa,
V'hefso Kol, Azai Melech Shamo Nikra Adon Olam, V'yacharei Kiklot HaKol, Leva Ado Yemloch Nora Adon Olam, Vehu Haya, Vehu Hove, Vehu Yeh V'tifara Adon Olam, Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem Kol,
B'terem Kol,
Yetzin Ivra, Le'et Nasa,
Yet Nasa,
V'hefso Kol, Azai Melech Shamo Nikra Adon Olam, Vehu Echad Ve'in Sheni, Lehamshilo Lehabira Adon Olam, Beli Reshit, Beli Taklit, Velo Ha'oz Ve'hamizra Adon Olam, Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem Kol, Yetzin Ivra, Le'et Nasa,
Yet Nasa,
V'hefso Kol, Azai Melech Shamo Nikra Adon Olam, Vehu Eli, Vehaiko Eli, Vetzorchef li Be'et Sara Adon Olam, Vehu Nisi, Umanos li, Menakosi Be'yom Ikra Adon Olam, Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem Kol, Yetzin Ivra, Le'et Nasa,
Yet Nasa,
V'hefso Kol, Azai Melech Shamo Nikra Adon Olam. This one. V'ya'adado av kidruhi, Be'et Ishan V'ha'ira Adon Olam, V'im bruhi geviyati, Adonai li v'lo ira Adon Olam,
Adon Olam.
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem Kol, Yetzin Ivra, Le'et Nasa,
Yet Nasa,
V'hefso Kol,
Azai Melech Shemo Nikra
Adon Olam. I'd like to do the kindergarten version of Hamotzi.
Yeah.
Used to
Yeah,
do
go.
when I was teaching Sunday
Here, do it in the mic here.
Okay.
And you get to get the challah because you did a wonderful job.
Oh boy. Okay. Hamotzi lechem in haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our prayer is humbly said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
As you came in peace, may you leave in peace. Please return your prayer book, your siddur, minus the leaflet, to the front of the sanctuary. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Either one of you who wants it.
No, I don't want it. I just told her before that after Yom Kippur, no more like having to sit down on this part.
We have a couple days till Yom